Hello everyone, welcome to my next post on Microsoft Identity Platform. Here we'll be securing an app service web app using Azure AAD. The web application has web pages as well as web APIs. Let us see how the web pages are accessed from browser as well as the APIs are accessed from the Postman. This is an high-level representation of what we are going to achieve. At the right side, we can see the Azure box that has three components inside. One app service, web app, which we are seeing in the middle, that is protected using app registration named service web app. Then we can see an app registration client that will be used by the client applications. Here we will be using Postman as a client application. When we access from the browser, we will be using the URL. It will be redirected into login.microsoftonline.com. Then after getting the credentials, it will redirect back to the application. The Postman uses two-step process. One step to get the token, second step to call the API using the token. Here shows the prerequisites, basic understanding about the web application development, APIs and how it can be accessed from Postman, and some idea about the Azure Active Directory. This tutorial separated into three phases. First phase is creating and hosting application into app service web app, which has web pages as well as API. Second phase is to configure the Azure AD registration. Third phase is enabling the AAD authentication in the app service. In this phase, we will be creating an web application in Visual Studio, which will be having some web pages as well as an API exposed from it. We will be hosting the web application to Azure App Service web app. Here we are using the same web application what we used in the last post. Link is provided. Additionally, a values controller has been added. That is an API controller. Since adding an API controller is not coming under this post, the details are omitted. Let us see how it is working. It is loading the home page. It's loading. Let us see how the API is working. The values controller has been added into this project. We can see the JSP in the bottom of the web page. Let us see how this is showing in the Chrome, where we can see the actual JSON itself. The page loaded in Chrome. Let us see the API URL, API/values. It is loading. Yes, we can see the string values are coming. Let us modify the application to return the proper name. We change it to AAD web and API. Now let us change the values controller to return the current server time, and go to the get method and change the data type. Now let us change the value what is returning. Let us run the application to see the modification what we have made. We can see the AAD web and API text has been changed. Now let us see the API. We are opening in the Chrome to see the JSON value itself. API/values. We can see the current server time. Next step is to publish the web application into Azure App Service web app. As last time, right click on the project, select the publish. This time we are going to publish into AAD app and API, AAD app and API.azurewebsite.net. That will be the address. If you don't have the application created, we have to create in the Azure port. In this scenario, we already have the application created. Let us publish. Publish succeeded. Now if we go to this URL, we should be able to see the application in action. Now the web application is loading. As we expected, it is saying AAD web and API authentication with minimal settings. If we go to API/values, it will be showing the current server time. As we expected, we have completed successful hosting of app and API into the Azure App Service web app. The next phase is to create the app registrations and set up accordingly. We will be requiring two app registrations. One for the service, which is here the producer, and the API will be consumed by using another app registration, which is representing the client application. Ideally, every client application would have their own app registration to access the service. So let us see what is inside the service app registration. This is pretty much same as previously what we have seen for the web application. Also, it will be having some additional setup for the API to be exposed. The API exposure done through client credential flow. The client credential flow needs some extra settings that we will be concentrating in this section. This is an Azure AAD app registration which is already set up. We are not going through the creation process again. Let us start from the display name. As we have seen last time, it is just a name and it will get an ID. This is a tenant ID, AAD tenant ID. Now we have the redirect URIs. This is same as what we have seen last time. The redirect URI has some specific form .auth login AID callback. The new thing here is the application ID URI. This was not there in the previous sample. This is needed to be identifying the authorization globally across Azure. This URL should be unique, meaning easy to use a GUID. The GUID can be used from the application ID. So we'll just create API // the GUID, or it can be any URL. It doesn't need to be starting with API. It can be HTTP or our name, whatever it is, as far as it is unique in the entire Azure. This ID will be using when we enable the access from the Azure web app. Coming to the authentication blade, so we can see the redirect URIs. This is needed for the login to the web pages, and we have enabled ID tokens. This is again a requirement for the web pages to be logged in by the redirection mechanism. In the certificate and secrets, no need to upload any certificate or no need of any secrets, because this is a service app which is a publisher. No need of any specific API permissions, can be empty. When we create a new application, there will be some entries. Those entries can be removed. Exposure and API. Here we can see the special URL API /app ID. This should be unique across Azure. No need of any extra scope. Now let us see the authorization for the client applications. This is also created already. So we can just go through the blades and see what are the settings needed. The name is fine, just a identifier. It will get its own application ID, and currently it is in the same Active Directory tenant. As we can see here, there is no redirect URI required and no application ID required. All this can be left blank. Coming to the authentication blade, support accounts in this organization. No need to go to the multi-tenant at this point. The certificate and secret has a role here, because this is a client application registration. Application registration should have the client secret or the certificate. This will be used for obtaining the JWT token. So only the client application need to have this secret. Ideally, the certificate is a better way, but for the easiness of testing, we can use secret. As you can see, the secret here will be expiring in 2020. This value will be displayed only one time, and we have to copy it somewhere else. No API permission is required. Even though this authorization is expected to call other authorization, we don't need to have any permissions. As far as both are in the same tenant, they will work. So this can left empty. No need to set anything here. Application ID can be empty. All these sections can be empty. On it, no need to worry about here. This will be showing who is owning the authorization. Same with the roles and administrators. Also manifest, no need to worry about anything here. Next phase is to enable AAD authentication in the app service. Let us go to the authentication and authorization blade. Turn the app service authentication on. In the action to take when the request is not authenticated, select login with Azure Active Directory, then click on Azure Active Directory, select the advanced. Here I have already populated the values. This is a authorization ID of the producer application. This is the issuer URL. We have the Active Directory tenant ID. Client secret is not required. This section is same as how we expose the web pages. Allowed token audience is the one which is needed for the APIs. This is the same URL, unique URL we have created when we configure the publisher authorization. Once we have this value set, press OK, then save. Let us test the application. As mentioned earlier, we will be testing browser as well as using Postman. Let us start with the browser first. Better open an incognito window and give the URL. This should direct to the AAD authentication page. We can see login.microsoftonline.com, the tenant ID, and there's a redirect URI. Make sure that when you are logging in, we are using the credential which is already part of the same Active Directory tenant. It will do some redirection and come back to the original page. Now if you do the test /.auth/me, we can see the values coming, email address, given name, surname, those details. This is same as how we saw last time. This is just enabling AAD authentication on a web pages application. Let us see the API is also working in the browser, API/value. So here we can see both the web pages and API is served from the same session. If our application and API are in the same domain, in here AAD app and API.azurewebsite.net, then we don't need to do any extra configuration. If our application is a client application, a desktop application, then we need to have client credential flow, which we can see using Postman. Now let us see how the API can be invoked from other applications applications. For ease of testing, here we are using the Postman. Using Postman, let us see how the API can be invoked. Postman is a client application which we can use to invoke any web URL. We can mention HTTP post or HTTP get. Also, we can add any headers, cookies like that. Let us start Postman. Now we are in Postman. The first action what we are doing is to get the JWT token. In order to get the JWT token, we need to give some details. It is a post call, basically it's an HTTP post call. The URL which will be hitting is login.microsoft.online.com. Important thing is this ID. This ID is a tenant ID, the Active Directory tenant ID. When coming to the values, what we are passing in the post body, first one is grant type. Grant type value is client credentials. This is a string which we need to remember or we need to use as is for the client credentials flow. Next is the resource. This is a unique URL we have created for the publisher app registration. API : the ID of the app registration which we used for publisher application. Now coming to the client ID. This is the ID of the client app registration. So here we have two Azure AAD app registration, one for the publisher, one for the consumer. So this is for the consumer. Ideally, every consumer application will be having their own app registration. So this is the ID of client app registration and this is the corresponding password. Click on send. It will send to the server and we will be getting JWT token. It looks like this format. Control C, copy it to see what it looks like. Go to jwt.io and paste that value. Then we can see some information about the JWT token. Here we can see the audience, which is the resource what we have passed in the request. This is the issued at and this is the expiry details. This is the application ID what we have used when we are requesting the JWT token. Now let us hit our API. It is AAD app and API.azurewebsite.net API/values. Here we need to add the authorization header. It has a format. Better do the bulk edit so we can see the authorization bearer. Authorization : bearer. Then we have to paste the JWT token what we have copied. There is a space required between bearer and the real JWT token. That being said, we now have an Azure app service which is protected using Azure AAD. Consumers can access it through browser as well as from any application, any desktop application or any daemon service that is possible. Let us summarize what are the main points. There are many settings and options we have seen during the course of this tutorial. Almost everything is important. If something goes wrong, it will not work. Here we are summarizing some important points. The main point is we need to have two app registrations. If our client is a desktop application or a service, we can even use same app registration for service as well as client, but normally the producer and the consumer are into different companies or different teams. It is advised to have two different app registrations. Next is about application ID URI. This must be unique across the entire Azure. This doesn't need to be an HTTP or any specific URI type. It can be anything as long as it is unique. For easiness, we can follow the convention of API : the app ID of the app registration, which is normally a GUID. The conventions are not same in Azure. For example, the application ID URI should be used as allowed token audience when we connect the app registration to the web application. Please notice that one side it is application ID URI, other side it is allowed token audience. Again, a difference in the terminology. The application ID URI, which used as allowed token audience in web app, has to be used as resource header when we are invoking from the Postman. It should be same even if we invoke it using a desktop application or a service or a scheduled job. Thanks for watching the video. Please subscribe, ask questions in the comments if you want to know more about this ID mechanism.